presentation it's a keynote address. It's basically very prestigious Shiv Prasad Hardiya Award. It had to be delivered by Dr. Shreyas Ramamurthy, but since he's not present, and Gitansha Shreyas will be presenting this talk. Gitansha, are you here?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Dr. Gitansha is academic director of cataract and refractive surgery in the Eye Foundation. She's got a ICMR grant for research in corneal cross-linking in 2012. She was conferred gold medal by IIRSI. Then she was the youngest to achieve it. And she has been a guest reviewer for some very high impact journals like Lancet, like JCRS, AGO, Eye Envision, BMC, Eye Care, and a lot more. Then she has been associate editor for refractive surgery in Indian Journal of Ophthalmology. She is the winner of best paper in IOC in cornea in 2019 and refractive surgery in 2020. Basically, the presenting author was Dr. Shreyas, but the chief author was Dr. Gitansha. So I've just allowed her to present her talk. Dr. Gitansha, please.
Thank you so very much, sir, for the opportunity. Are my slides visible?
Yes.
Yes, Dr. Gitansha, they are very visible. Please go ahead.
So very good morning to all of you. My free paper today is on the analysis of visual outcomes following cyclotorsion correction versus none in SMILE for astigmatism. I have no financial disclosure. Now, one of the major challenges in refractive surgery is accurately treating high powers, especially cylinder. This essentially is because of two reasons. One is getting an accurate refraction for these high errors. And the second is the fact that there is a certain torsion, which is also known as cyclotorsion, from when the eye is in sitting position to the patient going down into lying down position. A cyclotorsion of greater than 2 degrees, if not corrected, can also induce an undercorrection, especially in high astigmatisms. While the average cyclotorsion of the eye is around 3 degrees, it can go as high as 12 degrees, and a 4-degree rotation can induce an undercorrection of up to 14%. Now, a lot of talk has been going on as one of the major disadvantages in the VisuMax platform is that there is at present no technical support for this cyclotorsion compensation. So the purpose of our study was essentially to compare the visual outcomes following cyclotorsion compensation versus no compensation in SMILE for high astigmatism in a contralateral cohort. This was an interventional prospective case series at a tertiary eye care center, and ethics committee protocols and written informed consents were duly obtained. Now, the inclusion criteria, the other inclusion criteria was similar to as all laser vision corrections like SMILE. However, for the purpose of this study, we only included eyes wherein the manifest cylindrical refraction for both the eyes was at least 1.5 diopters, and the intraoperative cyclotorsion noted was 5 degrees or more. Exclusion criteria were the same as that of SMILE. This was a contralateral eye study performed on the VisuMax femtolaser system. We used the triple centration method, wherein 3 markings were made at 180, 360, and 270 degrees at the 7 millimeter central cornea on the slit lamp in sitting position. The intraoperative cyclotorsion was also measured, and only eyes wherein it was 5 degrees or more were included in the analysis. So this is a short video which shows the compensation. The cyclotortion here happens in 2 steps. The first is from sitting to lying down, and the second is because of the suction-induced pressure. You can see the 3 marks clearly, and also you can see that there is a certain intorsion of the globe after the suction has been released. So the clinical evaluation was done post-operatively at 1 and 3 months. The visual acuity and refraction was performed by a blinded senior optometrist, a single optometrist at each visit, and the other normal investigations like slit lamp, tomography, IOP measurement were also obtained. So when you look at the results, we included 30 patients with bilateral high myopia, so that was 60 eyes. The mean keratometric values and the pachymetry between the 2 eyes were not statistically significant. The median cylinder that we had included was -2 in the cyclotorsion compensation group and -1.75 in the nil cyclotortion group. However, the difference was not statistically significant. Also, the cyclotorsion noted intraoperatively was around 7 degrees, and similar in both groups. Now, postoperatively, you can see that the median cylinder was minus 0.37 and minus 0.25 in the cyclotorsion compensation and nil compensation group. There was no significant difference in any of the visual outcomes, either at 1 or 3 months. We also use the Alpin's criteria to study the astigmatic outcomes, and you can see that they're fairly matched groups in both the arms. The correction index shows a slight undercorrection in both the groups, which is very normal with these high myopic, high refractive cylinders. This is just a vector analysis of the Alpin's criteria. So beginning with the discussion, one of the first studies in cyclotorsion compensation in SMILE was published by Dr. Ganesh et al., wherein he showed that significantly better outcomes were obtained following cyclotorsion compensation when either the eyes had a high astigmatism or a high cyclotorsion. However, there was no control arm, and one of the major drawbacks was that they had applied a 10% overcorrection nomogram. So whether the patients truly did better because of the nomogram or because of the compensation is not very clear. Subsequently, no significant difference was noted in a study by Zhu et al. However, you can see that the cyclotortion intraoperatively was very low, around 0.6 and 3.2, and very different in both the groups. The third study had similar cyclotorsion compensations and a relatively moderate degree of astigmatism. However, the intraoperative cyclotortion again was not very high. So in order to overcome all of these limitations, we did a contralateral cohort with a high astigmatism and a high cyclotorsion analysis. Now, one of the major limitations of this study was, as with all manual markings, like even when we do a limbal marking for the toric IOLs, there are certain inaccuracies with the limbal marking. It is cumbersome, and there can be an error of as high as 2.8 degrees, while the average range is only 3.8 to 6 degrees. Also, the mark itself is very thick and could account for about 1 to 2 degrees. So I just like to conclude that correcting high astigmatism still remains a challenge. However, manual cyclotortion till date may be an ineffective method of treating the same, and we may require newer inbuilt mechanisms within the machine, which might be the future path of SMILE management in high astigmatisms. I'd like to thank you for your patient hearing.
Dr. Gitansha, it was a wonderful presentation.
Thank you, sir.
And of course, it was won the best award. Shri Prasad Ovation was there. And normally we don't ask questions after a keynote address. But I think the SMILE is a wonderful technique. And at present, it has some limitations, like you told, it's a manual composition of cyclotortion, then something is also manual. Then angle kappa, if you have to adjust, that has to be manual. What do you think, these things are improving, or you get better machines?
There is talk that the newer software of the VisuMax will have an inbuilt cyclotortion compensation, but that has been going on for more than 2 years now, sir. So I'm not sure when that's going to come in. There has been a lot of advances in hyperopia management in SMILE at present. I think that's going to be the next thing that's going to come. But as of now, I feel everyone talks about undercorrection in SMILE because there's no compensation mechanism. But if you look at multiple peer reviews and Cochrane reviews, we'll see that the undercorrection in SMILE is actually similar to that in LASIK, but no one just talks about it because there is a compensation. So I feel as of now, the machine itself is good enough. The results are fine. The surgeons can alter certain nomograms based on their outcomes, but manual compensation, I feel, doesn't really work as well. It's very cumbersome. Markings, they can slightly spread. They're very thick. Obviously, the precision is not very high. So I feel as of now, the results that we're getting without compensation within the VisuMax are good enough for the visual outcomes.
And what about the active eye tracking, which we are getting now with Shwin? They are coming with newer models. They got the active eye tracking, which is not available at present in VisuMax.
Yes, sir. But here the difference is, sir, that basically when we're doing an excimer laser, the eyes might still be moving, which is why we need the effective eye tracking. In SMILE, the lenticule is formed when the patient is under suction. So the eye movement doesn't happen as such. So once the lenticule is already formed, the refractive correction is over per se. All we need to then do is remove the lenticule. So eye tracking in SMILE is not really necessary, as against an excimer ablation, wherein it's necessary during the ablation procedure.
That's very valid point.